maybe I could get away with saying that next Thursday. Oh, it doesn't matter. I don't care. I'll just say Thursday of next week, we're going to be having class canceled because all the full-time faculty at the main campus doing something. I don't know. For like from 1 to 3, we'll be there. So they told us to make other arrangements. And the other arrangements that I'm making here is we're not going to have class because that's what they told us to do. But rather than going over how to use the like databases and go through the databases and look up articles and go through all that in class, probably what I'm going to do is just tell y'all, it doesn't have to be that you do it today, or like doesn't have to be that you do it next Thursday. In fact, you can do it whenever you want to. I'm sorry about the cord, it's kind of weird. But the video for how to do the research paper planning will be on, I mean, you can look up one from a previous semester that's in our YouTube playlist and just watch that in replacement for Thursday. If you want to, I can also provide, I think I will provide, because I was looking in, y'all don't have quite as many as the resources that I've given to like the 1302 class under the assignments page for the essay. Yeah, all I have for you guys is the document itself. But I think what I'll do is add in what a research paper planning is supposed to look like as an image. And then I may even just put the link in there too to the YouTube video on the research paper planning part on Blackboard. That way you can click that to watch the video, and you can also click it to see like how many articles I want of each type, and click it to see like what it's supposed to look like once you have submitted it. That way it's all in one place, and y'all can just pursue it on your own time as a replacement for next Thursday. Yes.
So when is it due?
The planning itself?
Yes.
It'll be due next Thursday.
So the plan for the research paper is due.
Yeah, so it's like
your rough draft kind.
Right, it's just a works cited page.
Oh, just the works cited.
Yeah, just your works cited and your thesis that you plan to prove.
Oh, okay.
Just so I have an idea of what your idea is for the paper.
Okay. And that's what you're give us like a 9 or 10 on?
Yes, that's the thing. I'll give you a 9 or 10 on. Assuming it's good. Yeah, if it's not as good as I'm looking for, then I'll give you something lower. But I'll tell you what's wrong with it. And I'll grade those as they come too. So if you decide after class today, you're like, well, you know, I've got some time, I'll go ahead and watch that video now. And look, Nichols put the link up for some reason already. And you go watch the video, and then you look at the little sample files I put in there, and you come to the conclusion that, well, I think I can go ahead and do that today. I'll be trying to remember, even on the weekends, to look at least once a day to see if people have submitted the planning assignment. That way, some of you, if you wanted to go ahead and get started on your stuff, you could, because those are very quick to grade. They only take me like 2 minutes, 3 minutes to just kind of briefly glance over and think about the idea. Because sometimes the idea you want to pose sounds maybe good in your head, but when I think about it, I think, I don't know how that's going to work. So it's good that you know that ahead of time. Yeah, but today I want to do instead is watch. We're not watching anything. Are you kidding?
The actual paper, when is it due?
The paper itself is week 12, day 2. And that's the same day we're doing the peer review, which is another day I'll be gone. But I'll do the peer review here that day. And you'll have peer review sheets.
See, I feel like we did peer review on all of our papers in the last 2 English classes.
You might have. And I used to do that, but it took so much time, and not everybody found a benefit.
Yeah.
Some people did. In fact, it's one of those situations where I feel like the people who benefit the most are the people who probably aren't going to turn the paper in on time anyway.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of people come in there and like, there are people like you who you all have your papers ready because you're like the students who go on and take Britlit for some reason. So you've got papers ready, and you're like, here's my paper. I came with class and it's prepared. And there's some kid who's got like a half a paragraph, and he reads your paper and goes, oh, all right. So this is kind of what we're supposed to do. And you were like, I don't know, maybe. I was hoping that you guys could, I could read your paper and you would help me. And
that was me.
Yeah.
Like if I got put in. If someone's paper, like I had all this stuff.
Oh, you were put in a group.
Or no, it'd be pairs.
Pairs.
But
okay.
any person.
I did pairs, but they were like random pairs, and you would be randomly paired off. You couldn't pick. They would say, can we pick? And I would say no. Because here's the thing. For example, let's just say that we have Allison and Tabitha, and they really respect each other's opinion. if I pair them with 3 random people during class, and after class they feel unsatisfied with those pairs, what are Allison and Tabitha going to do?
Just
They're going to read each other's damn papers anyway. So my good students are going to end up doing 4 or 5 peer reviews voluntarily, where the ones who wouldn't have seen anybody else's good paper, they got that benefit too. So it's like, I feel like, it's always going to work itself out when it comes to that situation. But if you're told, pair up, don't read anybody else's, that would be bad. I'm not going to do that. But that's one of the reasons I kind of just reserve one time for peer review now, because it doesn't always benefit people equally, I don't think.
Yeah, no, I see that.
Let's see. I just opened to a page called Christ's Humanity. That's very interesting. What page is that? It's really cool. I've never read this in this book. Hold on, I gotta take a picture of every page of my book. Hold on.
Why?
I'll look at my photos later and I'll say, what are today's photos? And I go, why did I take a picture of my book? And I'll have to look at it and I'll say 3 pages and I'll figure it out. Yeah, then I'll look it up. Okay, there's Spenser. Where's Shakespeare? We're going to look at the sonnets today. 540. The sonnets are short, so I feel like we can go through them fairly quickly, and they're fun. And well, I don't know. People don't often think they're fun, but I think they're fun. You what?
I've read all of them.
And they're fun, right? Or they can be. There's some that are more fun than others.
I have all these sonnets in an actual book at home.
In an actual book?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's a collection.
That reminds me.
Songs and sonnets.
Excuse me, Mr. Cake. What is this called?
Custard cake.
Okay, that's not as nearly as provocative as I was hoping for. I thought it was going to have a special name. Like this is a traditional, it's a louse and something and custard cake.
I can say that in French, the flan.
Flan?
Ah, damn it! I know that too. I already knew.
Okay.
This is what flan is?
Yes.
That's flan?
Uh-huh.
I didn't know that. I thought flan was like Jello,
It is. It's just small.
which is the top of it. So underneath flan is cake.
No.
It's custard.
Yeah.
Oh, the top is flan, so it's flan on cake.
Yeah.
Now I'm
Is
understanding.
flan on cake?
Yes, like I just said, flan cake. Right?
Oh, I was like,
Flan cake.
is it cake with flan on top, or is it like?
I found this, the Folger Shakespeare's edition of Sonnets, which I haven't used to teach before because I always forget to pull it out.
See, that's what I'm looking for.
Oh, that's what yours looks like? Okay. Well, we both got it.
Smaller, it's different.
Smaller and different. I know, I found it is very giant. I don't know why it was so big, but nonetheless, it is. Yeah, because it's set up like the Folger Shakespeare edition that I had for King Lear, where it's got the help on the side. And this book has some, but I've been curious as to whether or not this has any more. So I guess we'll see today. And we'll start with the one I like the least. I just feel like moving through these, not chronologically, but numerically, makes the most sense. Interestingly, I find the first line to be really annoying of Sonnet 12, even though it's meant to, it has a purpose. When I do count the clock that tells the time, and see the brave day sunk in hideous night, when I behold the violet past prime, and sable curls all silvered o'er with white, when lofty trees I see, barren of leaves, which erst from heat did canopy the herd, and summer's green all girded up in sheaves, borne on the bier with white and bristly beard, then of thy beauty do I question make, that thou among the wastes of time must go, since sweets and beauties do themselves forsake, and die as fast as they see others grow. And nothing gainst time's scythe can make defense, save breed, to brave him when he takes thee hence. I don't much like this. I like Shakespeare's sonnets in general, I just don't like this one, not that much. And it's probably because, if I'm not mistaken, I feel like I've forgotten a little bit of the last time I taught this for some reason. But the first however many sonnets, I can't remember exactly how many, but the first set, at least through number 12, were, and I want to say it was through 16 or 17, were written at the request of someone who was one of his like benefactors, who like liked his stuff and wanted to like essentially he wrote the poems for pay for somebody, or to kind of help him in like socially, because it was somebody who's like some madam something, or she was kind of rich. Does it say that in the Norton version? Because I can't find it in the Folgers edition. Okay, maybe it's here. No, it's not. No. Sonnets 1593-94. Oh, it might be here.
Dark Lady?
Dark Lady is one of the people, but. In Elizabethan England, with the aristocratic patronage, yeah, I feel this is kind of important to read. Protection and prestige alone could provide was probably a professional writer's most important asset, was the aristocratic patronage. So basically having the help of aristocrats, rich people with lots of money and influence, having them as friends. And this patronage, or at least Shakespeare's quest for it, is most visible in his dedication in 1593 and 94 of his narrative poems Venus and Adonis and the Rape of Lucretia to the wealthy young nobleman Henry Wriothesley, Earl of Southampton. And what return the poet got for his exquisite offerings is unknown. We do know that among wits and gallants, the narrative poems won Shakespeare a fine reputation as an immensely stylish and accomplished poet. This reputation was enhanced as well by manuscript circulation of his sonnets, which were mentioned admiringly in print more than 10 years before they were published in 1609, and apparently without his personal supervision and perhaps without his consent. Shakespeare's sonnets are quite unlike the other sonnet sequences of his day, notably in his almost unprecedented choice of a beautiful young man rather than a lady as the principal object of praise, love, and idealizing devotion, and in his portrait of a dark, sensuous, and sexually promiscuous mistress, rather than the usual chaste and aloof blonde beauty. Nor are the moods confined to blah, 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 blah. Shakespeare suggests a story, blah, 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 blah. Certain motifs are evident. An introductory series, 1 through 17, right, okay, good, that's what I was talking about, celebrates the beauty of a young man and urges him to marry and beget children who will bear his image. And the subsequent long sequence, 18 to 126, passionately focused on the beloved young man, develops as a dominant motif the transient destructive power of time, centered only by the force of love and dark permanence of poetry. Remaining sonnets focus chiefly on the so-called Dark Lady, which I don't think we read any of those, do we? Maybe one. Blah, 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 as an alluring but degrading object of desire. Some sonnets intimate a love triangle involving the speaker, the male friend, and the woman. Others take note of the rival poet, blah, 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 background information, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so, and it has the next bit, but I can just I can do that on my own. So I guess, right with 1 to 17 is essentially, it has this different feeling of like it's written to a young man or about a young man. And somewhere else I read that this was one of the aristocrats. She wanted essentially poems written about her son. And I guess from there he just sort of continued the idea. Because it's kind of like she wanted it like either a gift or a remembrance of her son. But he was alive at the time. So, but Shakespeare wrote these sonnets about him. So I feel like 12 is pretty forced, and so does 15. Feels forced to me. And the theme at the end, like the little message you're supposed to get, feels kind of lame when I read these two. I don't know if y'all felt the same way. Yeah, corny. And what was his conclusion? Because he says, he's talking about, the first line is fairly clever because it sounds like a clock ticking. When I do count the clock that tells the time, tickety-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. And he's like, when I look at all these old things that are getting older, then I question your beauty and that you must die. Since things that are sweet and beautiful get rid of their sweetness and beauty as fast as you can see the other ones grow. So it's like a cycle of things getting born and dying and born and dying. But then it says, nothing against time's scythe can make defense except breed to brave him when he takes these hints. So nothing can really outlast you except your children, which I guess is sort of implied with the thinking of things getting older, but then other things getting younger at the same time.
But it's just kind of a weird comment. I don't know.
To me, it feels forced.
Yeah, the conclusion doesn't necessarily match with everything that you came before.
Yeah. I feel exactly the same. I don't like it. How can I outlast the fact that I'm getting old? We'll have children. And so when you hear that it was this aristocratic lady, wanted this stuff written about her son, huh?
That's true, though.
It is
But it's just
generally not for a
weird
poet.
how it's written.
But somebody had to say it. Nobody else.
I mean, it really is sort of one of the reasons, to be honest, that you have children is like you hope to have somebody and then like watch them grow up, and your goal is to make them better than you usually. I mean, I've not yet known somebody who's like, yeah, I want to have kids, so I've got somebody who's less than I am that I can bully around all the time, at least not consciously.
Shouldn't laugh at them.
I mean, yeah. Some people it's like you got like, I mean, some people have like the parents who they just want to lord it over everyone. That's like the whole goal for them. But usually that's not the person who's like, okay, I'm excited, we're gonna have kids. There one day we're told they were pregnant. They're like, all right, let's do this. Or the Bible said I have to have a bunch of little ones to further on God's kingdom, so I guess I'll do that and get that started. And sometimes maybe the goals aren't just about the kids themselves. But in this case, it just seems like she's like, this just seems like the mom who, like, when the kid turns 18, please don't, I really hope this isn't happening. This didn't happen to me. I guess I kind of got started early, though, so they didn't really have time. But I really hope that as females, and granted, not every female in the room is like 18-ish, 19-ish, but I really hope that y'all don't have like family members constantly.
I'm like the oldest one. Everybody else is 18.
How old are you?
25.
Okay.
How old are you?
I'm older than you.
Oh, you're older than me? How old are you?
She doesn't have to answer that question.
She doesn't have.
I like it. She said, "I'm older than you, but I'm not going to answer the next question."
I don't mind.
You don't know. You do mind. Don't answer.
No, I'm 32.
Oh, really? Oh,
Oh,
I
wow,
never
I
guessed.
didn't even guess that.
Your
No.
skin is so good. Oh, no.
It's just a day full of compliments.
Because of me.
You know who I have? You know who I have trouble telling how old they are? Brenda and Carlos. Your faces are so pixelated. I mean, at your age, I don't know how many pixels the face has. So it's a little crap. I just realized. Can you guys even see like what we look like right now? Look, I don't even know what you're seeing. Let's see. What do we got? Let's do self view. Okay. Oh yeah, you can see everybody. You can't see old Nichols in the corner, which I'm fine with. And we'll just flip that right back. There you go. So you didn't see anything change, I don't think. But anyways, I was saying about the young ladies, I hope that y'all aren't constantly asked at the age of 18 and 19 when you've got no love prospects lined up and not really any plans to have kids in the next year or two. Somebody says, so when you going to get married? When you going to have kids? Because I hear that happens a lot in Texas.
It does.
And it doesn't for some reason
That
happen
happened
to me.
So much.
So much, really?
Me too, so.
So much. I'm like, God.
Why does nobody say, when you going to design your first building with that architecture degree? Looking forward to walking through it. Nobody asks that question.
10 years.
Nobody says, when am I going to see you flying a plane there, Montana? Looking
Like
forward
something
to
we're
it.
interested in with
Yeah.
like realistic goals.
When you going to pop out a child that we can now pay attention to instead of you for the rest of your life? That's what they ask. It's really, isn't that weird? It's like everybody's always asking about when can we stop paying attention to just you? Isn't that a weird question? I find that strange. It's such a strange thing. It's like, when are you going to give me something to pay attention to instead of you? And I'm always like, what's very rude. Yet at the same time, I hear other people who like Mr. Tarrant, who says, yes, children are an economic draw, and do I have children? And I'm like, well, I don't feel that way either. It's like there's a happy middle ground where you have a job lined up, you and your wife, and then around 30-ish, 40-ish, no, not 40, that's a little too, you can't even, I mean, can the body even do it?
My mom's 38 and she's just had another kid.
Then apparently you can.
I think men too.
The old,
They're good forever,
Oh,
right?
yeah, they can.
yeah, it's kind of not fair, is it? It's kind of not fair. A guy goes, well, I'm 80. I guess I'll start. You know, he can. Assuming he goes to the doctor and everything. What's that? Yeah, speaking of saving breed, we'll just move on to the next one. Yeah, but hopefully, none of y'all feel the pressure of that. Or even if you are pressured, don't succumb to the pressure. Don't ever feel like there's a certain time frame. The time frame is whenever you've found the person. And then whenever you and that person go, hey, do you want to make little more versions of us? Sure. And then that's okay.
They're so cute.
mentally
Do you
bad.
have the experience I have? I always told my wife, I always see her in my kid, and she sees me. Do you see your
Husband?
in your kid, and then he sees you, and
Yeah, no, I mean, he has my brown eyes, so that, like, when he looks at me, I feel like it's like I'm looking at a tiny mirror. But he has my husband's mentality, and, like, he has the little pieces of me, but
He's your husband.
looks like me. Husband, mentalized, that's him. That's all my husband. So it's like half and half.
it's
Half
fun.
and half.
It's fun. Kids are fun
They are fun.
when you have them in due time. Oh, I should mention too. There's something I didn't mention about the sonnets that I should go into, which is, generally speaking, it's set up in kind of a 3-part structure, where the first 8 lines are like an introduction and setting up kind of information we need to know. The 4 lines after that are kind of, I call it the turn. I mean, it probably has a better, but it's where we take the information we just started with. Now we start to go in sort of a new direction, and it usually flips it around the 8th to 9th line. And then the last 2 lines are sort of the conclusive kind of punchline / punctuation.
What is that called? It's like the reason, like, why
It has it.
Shakespearean sonnets. It's the way it's set up.
Yeah, so this so-called Shakespearean pattern, though not always, calls attention to 3 distinct quatrains, and I don't actually feel it's that way. I feel like it's 1 quatrain, and the 2nd quatrain generally, to me, function together. The 3rd quatrain is on its own, and the last 2 lines are on their own. Now, it's talking about rhyme. I'm talking about theme. I don't really care about just rhyme. Says startling shifts in direction may occur in lines other than the closing ones, though. For example, in this other one they show. Often the main idea of the poem may be grasped quickly, but the precise movement of thought and feeling, the links among the shifting images, syntax, rhetorical structure are challenging. And it says that it often will have many variations. I've just noticed it goes, the first 8 lines kind of work together. The next 4 switch from their subject slightly. And then the last 2 seem to be like the punchline. But in terms of it having like actual names for all those bits, they don't even agree with me in the book. So.
Sorry, y'all are like.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Now I'm like, I'm just so sad. I'm like, oh.
All right, so the next one, 15, another one I don't really like as much, but it's okay. When I consider everything that grows, holds in perfection but a little moment, and that this huge stage presenteth naught but shows whereon the stars in secret influence comment, when I perceive that men as plants increase, cheered and checked by the same self-same sky, vaunt in their youthful sap, at height decrease, and wear their brave state out of memory. Notice it's often like that. It's like a when, and then you see a whole bunch of stuff, and now in the 9th line, then, and so it's usually like it turns like the next part of the sentence or the idea. Then the conceit of this inconstant stay sets you most rich in youth before my sight, where wasteful time debateth with decay to change your day of youth to sullied night. And all in war with time for love of you, as he takes from you, I engraft you new. I feel like the conclusion here is substandard to Sonnet 18, which does it a lot better.
I don't understand
That's
what
what
he means in those 2 lines.
In those last 2 lines, I think it's like the idea of the poet. So he says, I'm at war with time for love of you, because I love you and you're young now. And so as he takes from you, talking about death, or decay really is the idea he sets up here. Decay is taking you from me by making you older, and eventually you'll be gone. But as he takes that time from you, I engraft you new. I write poetry that preserves that state.
It is pretty much like Sonnet 18.
Yeah, it's a lot like it, just not as good.
Yeah.
18 is my favorite.
Yeah, 18's really good.
That's what I did my research paper class.
Oh, I thought you were going to say discussion post. There wasn't a discussion post, was there?
No, which by the way,
Woo!
you never opened them up. The one I needed to do, I emailed you
Discussion post or quiz?
quiz.
Oh, yeah,
No,
that
I haven't
is-
opened it yet.
When are you gonna open it?
I didn't finish the essays yet.
Oh.
I know, I finished your essays. I haven't finished everybody else's essays. Or I think I got Matita's
like
today.
the quiz, like the intro quiz that I missed.
Yeah,
So you're waiting to open that up?
yes,
Why?
because I don't have time yet. I have like about 18 to 20 people who've emailed me, can you open this quiz? And so I'm going to do it all at once.
Oh, okay.
I guess I should communicate this to people instead of just having it operate inside my head.
And like, I didn't see it.
Every day. No, in fact, when I do it, I always email you right back and say, hey, I opened it for you. It's now available till this time.
Okay.
I should include that in the syllabus.
I didn't even know which one I needed.
It was
one over King Lear.
Oh, is it still that scenario where we looked at it? You can't see it in my grades unless you have a grade 4. Well,
yeah.
Does the grade itself go away because you can't see the quiz anymore? That was a lot of staring.
I don't see a 0 in there, so.
That's what I got.
That's all I got.
Does it go away?
Well,
that was like the perfect impersonation of all of our faces.
It's so. This book is the Norton. I've got the stars here, and this is only. It's got it narrowed down to like a certain few, right? So I've starred the ones we're reading. This book I haven't, and like I got to 16. I got to 16 and I saw Times Pencil, and I'm like, we don't read anything about Times Pencil. What is this? Grafting. Oh yeah, I've heard of that before. That's really neat. Let us read Sonnet of Shakespeare number 18.
Let's go. Let's do it.
This is Celia's favorite, so she'll pay a lot of attention to this one. Here we go. And this is often one that I think to be his most famous sonnet. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed. And every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall, and see we get shall I blah blah blah, and then we get but, so that everything turns on the but. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest. Nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. It's so much better than the other one.
yeah.
Just so much better.
It flows so much better, too.
Can you imagine like two guys come up to you and one of them says, what does he say? He says, all in war with time for love of you, as he takes from you, I engraft you new. And another guy says, so long as men can breathe and eyes can see. You're like, that's already better. I don't even care what the next line is. So long as men can breathe. And a lot of people say, oh, Shakespeare speaks in like such cliches. You know, so like, I don't know, like they would be like, oh, as long as men can breathe. Yeah, but he invented them. Like he's the one who made them all up. Yeah, nobody said these things until he said them. And he's just that good. And that's really one of the reasons like we read Shakespeare, is because so much of what he said, he's the first person to say these things in those ways. He made up a lot of phrases, a lot of words.
Isn't he like a big part of like our language now, like today?
Yeah, and then not only that, but it's not just because anybody can make language up.
Wasn't it like
he's just so imaginative.
I read in my research how many words he actually can. It was either like 200 or 2,000. It was some crazy number of like how much he's actually like influenced things.
Yeah, and I have like a book down the hall, and it talks like it's like Shakespeare's influence or like something of Shakespeare, and it talks about like all the words that originated with Shakespeare. Like he made up a heck of a lot of these, and he just did whatever he felt he needed to do at the moment, and so he didn't consider these to be rules. He considered, when you're inventing language, you're somebody who you don't feel bound by it. You feel like it's yeah. I really feel like Shakespeare, and this sounds crazy, but I feel like probably the closest thing we have, and this is terrible, the closest thing to the language creation of Shakespeare that we have today, like in the poetry he has, is probably music like hip hop, where I feel like if I read like if I listen to like country music, I'm hearing all the same words I've always ever heard. Mm-hmm. But if I listen to hip hop, I feel like sometimes I'm hearing phrases and words that have never existed before. I guess.
But then they make sense, and it's like.
Yeah, and I feel like, but I mean, not only not existed before, but like, I mean, take a word like.
Fleek. Fleek was not a word. Like being on fleek, on point.
Right, but I feel like some poets would be like, oh, I'm not going to put the word fleek into a poem. Shakespeare would have.
Yeah.
Shakespeare would have thought, that's pretty clever. Let's put it in. In fact, probably a lot of this stuff maybe did exist around like the streets and stuff, and people were saying it. And he said, let's throw that in there. That's fun, because he was incredibly good businessman. People came and saw his plays, like they wanted to. Oh, Shakespeare plays coming, and he made a lot of money off of them. This is in a day when people didn't even honor copyright. He still made a heck of a lot of money off of these plays.
Wasn't his wife wealthy?
That I don't know. I'm not a great biographical information person. I've kept some stuff. I don't feel like I don't want to be one of those teachers. I know there's a lot of teachers out there that if you ask them a question they don't know the answer to, they'll almost halfway like make up a response to make them sound smart. Like you say, like you've basically already given me the answer, right? You've said, and wasn't his wife wealthy? And I could go, yes, lots of wealth there. So that helped as well. And I can sound like I know what I'm talking about, but I don't like doing that. Like oh, I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
I just feel like that makes for a better teacher than trying to sound like I know. Let's shut down inquiry. I don't know the answer to this question.
Yes.
Are you what?
She asked if I was drinking coffee.
Oh, okay. Are you? All right.
Are they both coffees?
Did you know you have to answer that question if a teacher asks if you're drinking a certain thing, you have to answer because we have to make sure that there's no like chemical dependency problems going on in the classroom and like no alcohol and things like that. Okay. Actually, I'm making that up. You could say whatever you wanted if I asked you what's in the drink. If I say, is there any alcohol in there? I mean, it's really like we don't have that power, actually. I completely made that up. That's not real.
You made all that up?
Yes, it sounds real, though, doesn't it?
It did.
I know. Interestingly, I will be honest when it comes to real questions, yet completely lie about other things. It's all about creativity. Like Shakespeare. I feel like Shakespeare would put the word... Don't you feel like he would put the word twerk in a play if he was writing poetry now? You'd feel like twerk. Like somebody would say like twerk. That's ridiculous language, and he'd be like, that's hilarious. Let's put it in. It's like, doth thou twerketh in front of me? I feel like he would say it, wouldn't he? He would. Because it's just playful and fun, and that's what he is. And he can go from playful and fun to completely dramatic. And like
naturally just like good, though. Like, he was just good.
Yeah, he's just one of those people, like, he's got it. He's born with it. Like, I just feel like he didn't even have, like, that crazy good education that a lot of people had. I mean, it's like his dad was, like, a merchant, and I'm assuming he paid for him to go to school, but he didn't go to some prestigious school. We don't have any records of like Oxford or anything like that. He just kind of went to school, and he didn't have like they've talked about. He may have known some of like, I can't remember if it was Horace and his poetry, and he would have maybe been familiar with, I don't know, some Roman tragedian. He didn't even know Sophocles. He didn't know Oedipus, Antigone. He didn't know that stuff.
In my research,
yeah,
the school that they think he went to when he was young studied stories like that. Like, so he was familiar with it.
But he didn't know. I was reading that he did not know Sophocles or Aeschylus or Euripides, like the big Athenian tragedians, and that's why you might hear some smatterings of the big stories, but you don't hear in reading him like the particulars of like Sophocles and Aeschylus and Euripides, like a lot of the people at the time would have, because he didn't have that same education. He had an education. Yeah, it's more original. But I would have still rather known or not rather, but it would have been neat to have seen like what would Shakespeare have been like if he'd known the greats in addition to the ones he had. I don't know. But then part of what makes something like T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland so great is it's not made up just entirely of references from things we've all heard of before. It's made up of references from just stuff he found lying around that he thought, oh, let's make a poem out of this. I don't know. It's interesting stuff. I like that. So we got 18. What else we got? What's next? 23. I think I remember like 23 too. Yeah. That's okay. As an unperfect actor on the stage... Oh, I like this one. I do like this one. As an unperfect actor on the stage who with his fears put beside his part, or some fierce thing replete with too much rage, whose strength's abundant weakens his own heart. So I, for fear of trust, forget to say the perfect ceremony of love's rite, and in mine own love's strength seem to decay, or charged with burden of mine own love's might. And then here's the turn. He doesn't say but this time, but he does switch subjects. He's like, because I'm afraid to tell you how I really feel, oh, let my books be then the eloquence and dumb presagers of my speaking breast, who plead for love and look for recompense more than that tongue that more hath more expressed. Oh, learn to read what silent love hath writ, to hear with eyes belongs to love's fine wit. So essentially he's saying here, like, there's some people or some dude who is totally like willing to be like, I totally like love you and stuff, like you're super hot and like I like you. And he's like, no, I can't say it out loud, but I've got like my writing and things, and you know, maybe I don't know, maybe body language. I don't necessarily see that, but let my books is what he's really focusing on. Let the things that I've written down be the presages of my life. I feel like he's the kind of guy who would maybe write secret admirer type letters in this poem. You know, maybe not Shakespeare himself, but like he would write like, oh, a secret admirer letter, and like shove it in your locker or something. You know, and you open it and be like, who wrote me this? You know, and you want to find out. And he's like, ah, yes, this is true love written down. Not some big bro who comes over and is like, hey, you're pretty, come here. He's like, I can't approach you like that. I can write things down. That's what I can do. Interestingly, when I was in middle school, I did write a girl secret admirer letters with poetry. Yeah.
So sweet.
She was in a different grade. And really, I knew she would never say yes to me because I felt like I was, I'm not going to tell y'all why. So I would say, oh, no, I don't want to hear it. But I thought that it would work out better for an athlete, let's say, with this particular girl. And so I just was kind of like, I'll practice writing love letters. And if I hear that she's trying to figure out who, I'll be like, oh, she likes the love letters. But I never, I don't think, had any actual anticipation that anything would come of it. I wasn't. Man, I tell you, one time she went marching into the band hall one time, and I was like, oh, crap, because I made reference to, like, being blonde. And I had a friend who was more blonde. She said, have you been writing me these love letters? And he was like, what? No. She's like, but it says you're blonde and you're in band. And he's like,
Were you like right there?
no. And I'm just like, that's weird, huh? This is weird. I eventually did tell him later, but it was really funny.
You're like, tea over on the side.
No, not in band. We couldn't drink tea and play our instruments.
Water.
Yeah, I did have water. I'm like, okay. All right, let's skip a lot of these. We'll go on to 71.
I have to ask though, did she ever figure out who it was?
I gotta go to the bathroom.
That girl?
Yeah.
Nah.
I'm gonna leave.
No, I don't believe that Haley Hazlip did. If anybody knows a Haley Hazlip, it's going to be really awkward.
Haley Hayes?
Yeah, don't tell her. Oh, you're headed out. Okay, I thought it was like... Everybody keep in mind, it's just Allison heading out. And don't start packing your bags.
We're out.
To go.
They're like, well, if Allison's gone.
We're carpooling. We gotta go. She's around.
Oh, that's clever. Your phone says trick or treat yourself.
Yes.
Topical, Halloween. I like it. Okay, next. 71. How are we even talking about poetry today? It's kind of
Yes, we like Shakespeare.
71. No longer mourn for me when I am dead. Oh, and this is one, I like this one too. It's kind of sad, but I like it.
Oh, I do like it. I do
I
like
like
this
it.
one.
No longer mourn for me when I am dead, then you shall hear the surly, sullen bell give warning to the world that I am fled from this vile world with vilest worms to dwell. Nay, if you read this line, remember not the hand that writ it. For I love you so that I and your sweet thoughts would be forgot if thinking on me then should make you woe. Oh, if, I say, you look upon this verse when I perhaps compounded am with clay, do not so much as my poor name rehearse, but let your love even with my life decay. Lest the wise world should look into your moan and mock you with me after I am gone. I feel like this is one of the harder poems to understand in terms of what he actually is trying to say, so we might cover that a little bit, because
Like,
I don't know. What are you getting out of it first? Let's hear.
well, like, don't mourn for him. Like,
Basically, when he
move
dies.
on. But,
I think, oh, I'm sorry, what do you think?
oh yeah, you can go.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
No, you go, Seeley. Go ahead, Seeley.
What was
Are you gonna?
I forgot what I was going to say.
I knew that sentence. Okay.
I did the stare again. Montana saw it first. She was like, "Oh gosh."
It kind of scared me.
Yeah, it's rather frightening. Rather frightening stare face.
I think he's wondering, or like he's worried that after he's gone, if she dwells on his death, it may kind of like poison their love that they have. Like it may make it too like real, and he may want it to stay in this kind of like fairy tale state and not be touched by anything, not even death. So maybe that's why he's saying, you know, don't remember me like this and don't think about this.
I hadn't even thought about it that far. It's very well could be that he doesn't want the. I guess yeah. So it depends on whether like his motivation is he doesn't want her to think. What, are you okay? Okay. He doesn't want her to think of the love in a negative way by mourning him and then spending the whole time mourning, and then she's like, man, I only ever think back on this negatively. I've always thought that he just doesn't, like, he cares for her. He doesn't want her, like, after he's gone to just sit there and think about him all the time and not move ahead with her life. And a lot of people have put, and I guess this is when I was saying this is somewhat, people will misunderstand this, is the part at the end where it says, lest the wise world should look into your moan and mock you with me after I'm gone. A lot of people take that to mean like that the world itself has a goal to do that. Like it's doing it intentionally. Like, you know, with mocking, we think of somebody mocking you on purpose. Not just the very fact of, because I mean, this is how this is sometimes, where just the fact that the world's moving on around you and isn't stopping,
Yeah.
that in itself is like it's mocking you, even though it's not really. Because I mean, I'm sure we've known somebody, or we've personally lost somebody before, and when you do, it's like the world is mocking you because it doesn't stop the way your world has. Your world is like just suddenly stopped because this person's gone, but for everybody else, it just seems to keep moving. Like it's like what you went through didn't even happen, and as a result of that. I think that's why I think that people take that mocking wrong. Like she's upset and they think that the world's trying to cause it, but it's not. It's just the very fact that it exists. Yeah, it's just a natural.
But when he says, and mock you with me after I'm gone, does that imply that he's mocking her from the grave?
No,
I know
it's just.
It doesn't match up with the rest of the poem, but I'm just wondering what he means by that.
I mean, imagine like it's 5 years down the line and your husband's died, and the only way you're able to figure out how to get over it is to repress that, you know, and pretend like, you know, just kind of not even think about it and move to a different place. And you see somebody you haven't seen in a long time. They're like, hey, how are you doing? And you're like, oh, I'm great, you know, just living the life out here. I heard about your husband a few years ago. That must have been awful. Let's talk about this for 20 minutes. And she's just trying to be sweet, but for you it brings everything back up. And then
So maybe he's saying also, because the whole thing is about her dwelling on it, so maybe he's saying that if you do dwell on this,
he's like literally
he'll mock you.
yeah, he's like literally, if you sit here and you mourn me, if you sit here and you like wear black for a year and like you just don't move on, in fact, forget me, just straight up forget me, because I would rather you forget me entirely, like I never existed, than for you to be sad. It's just him being.
That's really sweet.
Yeah, it really is sweet. Because that's essentially what he's saying is like, I don't want you to be sad, so just forget me if you have to.
Yeah, because
and
that I and your sweet thoughts should be forgot. If thinking on me, then should make you well.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's saying.
He's trying to be a sweetie.
Just forget me.
I mean,
And
this.
I think when he says like less the wise world, so I don't think it's like together they're like mocking. I think it's like just
That was in my book. I don't know where it came from. But bunches of little Halloween stickers and drawings. Makes no sense.
It says Lily on it. Who's Lily?
Oh, I guess my aunt gave it, or my not aunt, niece must have. I somehow got it from my niece. I don't know how, but what were you saying, Tabitha? Sorry, I interrupted.
But yeah, it's just what y'all are saying. It says let your love even with my life decay. Bless the wise world. But I think he's meaning like not with the world, but like just fight the world. Just like forget that that's gonna happen or whatever.
Yeah, I agree. Let's do Sonnet 94. So we'll go over that one. This one's a little harder. I'd probably say it may be one of the hardest ones that we have here. They that have the power to hurt and will do none, that do not do the thing they most do show, who, moving others, are themselves as stone, unmoved, cold, and to temptation slow, they rightly do inherit heaven's graces, and husband nature's riches from expense. They are the lords and owners of their faces, others but stewards of their excellence. The summer's flower is to the summer sweet, though to itself it only live and die. But if that flower with base infection meet, the basest weed outbraves his dignity. For sweetest things turn sourest by their deeds, lilies that fester smell far worse than weeds. Is that why I had it in the lily page?
I don't know.
I did. It's specifically on the poem that had lilies. I wonder if I did that on purpose a long time ago and just don't remember.
I think that it's a really big coincidence.
I don't think it is. I don't believe in coincidences unless they really are coincidences. Like whoever wins the lottery, it's not a coincidence. Right?
Yeah.
No, that literally is. That's a definition.
I was trying to
yeah.
with that.
I'm going to go ahead and read what it says here as the description, because I've yet to do this on one of these poems. This sonnet describes a category of especially blessed and powerful people who appear to exert complete control over their lives and themselves. Ah, okay. So this is exactly what I was thinking. These persons are then implicitly compared to flowers and contrasted with weeds, the poem including with a warning to such persons in the form of the proverb about lilies. This is so much better than... Okay, so for a few years, for whatever reason, I was taking this power to hurt and will do none. I was just thinking of pretty faces for some reason. I don't know what I was getting out of this to make me think it was pretty people. But it really is that they have a lot of power. They have the power to hurt people if they want to, and they just choose not to do it. I imagine that, to me, like, it's hard to really articulate this.
Like the sweetest people could say the most hateful thing.
Or people, not even the sweetest people, but people who literally have the power to hurt people and they choose not to do it.
There's something really honorable and more.
Like, I'm kind of thinking of almost like the opposite of, say, because I think I've expressed to y'all my dislike of just the person, not his Trump. Is that imagine for a second that Trump, the elected Trump, was just a super nice guy and was like totally understanding of, like, in fact, Bush. Let's think of Bush. I mean, have y'all seen that Bush is like Michelle Obama like has said, oh, he's my buddy, and like they have like pictures together, like, huh?
Did you see the video where he gives her candy?
Yes.
Oh,
like it was so cute. Like they were in like some event, like it was the inauguration maybe or something of Trump.
Pulling out like a little wrapper of candy, and then he hands one over to Michelle.
Yeah, he hands a piece of candy to Michelle, like so she can have it. It was kind of funny. It like shows that like he was just a nice guy. Like, I mean, he just is one of those people where. And I think he was really devastated, like when 9/11 happened. Not because, oh man, this happened in my presidency, which I figure is the kind of reaction Trump would have. But I mean, I feel like he kind of cared about people, and regardless of his politics, I think the politics he had, he chose because he felt like he was right. He pursued. Anytime he made a decision because he felt like it was the right thing to do. And it made a lot of people who are Democrats and Republicans mad at him at times because sometimes he'd make a decision that didn't really fit with his party line. And sometimes Democrats are like, oh yeah, he's doing stuff with us, and then other times it'd be like, oh, he's being too Republican, and it made him angry. It made people angry for that. But Trump is just, everything seems to be party line. He's making no non-party line decisions, and sometimes his party line decisions are a little too far right of the party line. Where he's just like, I mean, you can tell he's not saying it out loud, but you can tell if you're not white, you're not all right. That's essentially what he's trying to make it happen as much as he can, and it's just one of those things where he has the power to hurt, and he's doing it. That's essentially what people have the problem with, I think, with Trump. Whereas Bush, as much as he tried to help everyone. In fact, I think is something similar with, have y'all ever seen like John F. Kennedy's old speeches? Some of his old speeches, and like he wanted to like do a lot with the civil rights movement. He felt like it was time. Have y'all ever heard of there was this big longitudinal study to like look at the quality of life and like what keeps people alive longer, that was done by Harvard, and John F. Kennedy just happened to be included in that study because they did like a bunch of people who were at Harvard and a bunch of people who were in just I think Massachusetts came to anyway, it's irrelevant. But anyways, people who have all that power and they don't use it to harm people. And I'm sure you've heard horror stories before of celebrities who like they're real jerks, and some celebrities are real nice. In fact, Keanu Reeves is a great example of this. You'll assume like Keanu Reeves is like a super nice guy and only ever does nice things for people. And like sometimes he has like all this power and like he can make a lot of money on his movies. And he was like Matrix many years ago, and then he does John Wick, and that becomes big too. Like he's just one of those people who he makes great movies.
John Wick from?
It's a comic book. It was a graphic novel.
My son makes references to that.
Yeah, and it's a movie, but it was a comic book.
Yeah, they have 2 movies out now.
Yeah. Is the second one good?
Yeah.
I haven't seen
Just
it.
as good as the first one.
Just as good?
Yeah.
That first one was good. He's just so like raw. He took all that training from Matrix and just put it right back into something else. It was really good.
And I've watched all the Matrix too.
There's a lot of punching and gunning in the John Wick movie.
Yeah.
And it's always in enclosed spaces. It's not like you'll see like shooting happening in like big open areas. It's like you see someone like getting in a shooting fight in a kitchen.
Yeah.
And then it's like, all right, let's switch to the living room, I guess. But there's a new guy now in the living room. It was really cool stuff. But he's one of those where like he could be an actor and he could be like the jerk actor that does jerk things. But like if you like see him on the street and like, hey, could I take a selfie with you? He'd be like, yeah. And like he'll take the selfie and he'll like, oh hey, I've got like this on me. Do you want it? Oh my gosh, yes. Like he's just a nice guy. Like he's literally, so movies can get made for people he thought their movie was a good idea. He's agreed to take no salary. He just does that kind of thing. Like he's a good person. He has the power to like hurt and does none.
That reminds me of an Abraham Lincoln quote. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's
Yeah.
one of my favorites, but I don't know it exactly. It's something like, to see a man's true character given power.
Mm-hmm.
Is that how it goes?
I don't know. I do know.
Like that, on to test a man's true character, see what he does with power. And that's kind of like the same thing.
Yeah, so, exactly. I'm sure you've seen a lot of people before that they were nice people, but once they got into a position of power, it like ruined them.
So that's why it's so much more admirable when somebody has that power and they don't use it.
Right.
In a bad way.
Yeah. On Big Brother, they call it HOH-itis. Because when somebody wins the competition for the week and now they're in power, it always goes to their heads. Rarely does somebody just go, all right, I'm super chill.
HOH.
Head of household. That's what they call it. Let's go to 106, because we're like, what, almost halfway done now? And we've got a cool 10 minutes left. We'll probably have to continue this on another day. And maybe, well, it sucks too, because we're already going to get like half a week with John Dunn. We'll have to figure something out. What's
John Dunn?
John Dunn, not John Donnie.
Oh, I was saying John, but
Don. Oh, okay. I always heard it said John Dunn. In fact, I think I've heard it a lot of places, so I'm assuming that's the real
It's
pronunciation.
John
Dunn. Yeah. So now your pronunciation guide is done. That's how steak is done. This one's okay. This seems to me like his version of a cheesy poem. When in the chronicle of wasted time I see descriptions of the fairest wights, the beauty-making, beautiful old rhyme, and praise of ladies dead and lovely knights. Then in the blazon of sweet beauty's rest, of hand, of foot, of lip, of eye, of brow, I see their antique pen would have expressed even such a beauty as you master now. So all their praises are but prophecies of this our time, all you prefiguring. And, for they looked but with divining eyes, they had not skill enough your worth to sing. For we, which now behold these present days, have eyes to wonder, but lack tongues to praise. He's just really good at what he does. He takes this super cheesy idea of, I would write how beautiful you are, but I have not the skill by which to do so. Such beautiful lady. And he makes it sound like so cool, and like he does it in a way that doesn't sound like he's an ass. Like he says, essentially he says all these old poets who were really great at praising the skill of women's beauty, he's like, I'm not as good as them. They were better. And they were prophets of your beauty. They were predicting how beautiful you would be. But even they lack the skill to praise how beautiful you actually are now. And so we have but eyes to wonder, to look at you and go, oh man. But we lack the tongues to praise you. Gosh, dang it, he was good. I bet he could have talked himself into any bed in town, honestly. In fact, there were records of him having done so. There's a fun story where one time, I think it was either Christopher no, it was Richard Burbage, one of his actors. A woman left him, she liked his performance in one of his plays, and she left him a note of where to meet him and said, hey, tell your servants that you're King Richard, because that was, I think, the part he played. Said, tell your servants that King Richard has arrived when you get there, and they'll let you up to my bedroom. And somehow Shakespeare, he was passing the note around people to see, and Shakespeare saw it. And so Shakespeare shows up to her place and says, King Richard has arrived, and she lets him upstairs. And they said, Madam, King Richard has arrived. And he said, tell him William the Conqueror got there first. And it was genius. Or like left a note that said that, like to give to them if somebody else arrives and says King Richard, give them this note. And it says, tell him William the Conqueror. I was like, genius. So genius. But apparently she let him in and it worked. And she watched the guy on the stage and he's like, hey, I'm Shakespeare, the playwright. Well, how did you... Oh, he couldn't make it. I'm here instead. So clever. He's just a clever guy. So yeah, 116 is next. Yeah, it's such a good... It's such a weird... I should probably put a marker there. Take that out. All right, let's see. 116. Let me not to the marriage of true. This is one of the most, I think, anthologized poems. And most people will put this in weddings. Anthologized meaning like it goes into like one of these things like right here where they put it in big old anthology of other works. Let me not to the marriage of true minds amid impediments. Love is not love which alters when it alteration finds. Or bends with the remover to remove. Oh no, it is an ever-fixed mark that looks on tempests and is never shaken. It is a star to every wandering bark, whose worth's unknown, although his height be taken. Love's not time's fool, though rosy lips and cheeks within his bending sickle's compass come. Love alters not with his brief hours and weeks, but bears it out even to the edge of doom. And if this be error, and upon me proved, I never writ, nor no man ever loved. Essentially, love is... never ending. Love is, it's kind of like a retelling of love is patient, love is kind. And it's not the kind part, but love is everlasting. And love endures, that's the best. Yeah, love endures all. It does not just flippantly change.
But then he's like, forget me if I die.
On the other one. But that's an act of love, isn't it? And this one, I feel like we don't have to spend much time on this one. It's like love endures. Yep, it does.
Good point. Let's go.
130. 130. Where is 130? Why is this one page's font smaller? That's really weird. Oh, I love this one. It's probably one of my favorites.
Oh, this is what my friend did her Shakespeare stuff
It's
over.
so funny.
It's funny.
I saw somebody coming in. I was like, who is that? My mistress's eyes are nothing like the sun. Coral is far more red than her lips red. Well, if snow be white, why then her breasts are done. If hairs be wires, black wires grow on her head. I have seen roses damasked red and white, but no such roses see I in her cheeks. And in some perfumes is there more delight than in the breath that from my mistress reeks. I disagree with the book's note on that, by the way. I love to hear her speak, yet well I know that music hath a far more pleasing sound. I grant I never saw a goddess go. My mistress, when she walks, treads on the ground. And yet, by heaven, I think my love as rare as any she belied with false compare. He's so like, he's so annoyingly cocky and confident and sure of himself all the time. Like, I feel like if you got in an argument with him, well, on paper, he might not be that great at live because he says that earlier, but like, he just would, he could
articulate things in words, but if he's writing it, he's got you.
Maybe. He's saying, and yet by heaven, I think that my love is as, and rare as in like hard to find. You would rarely be able to find it. As any she belied with false compare. So as any, I guess that someone else would present in a different way, in a false comparison. Like somebody says, which is how it would sound. Thy lips are as red as coral. I want you to build this woman in your head, okay? Lips as red as coral. Like literally, no makeup. Red lips.
Chef lips.
If snow be white, why then her breasts are done. So it was someone whose skin is as white as snow. Okay? That's freaky. That's like ghost, like dead. That's dead. If hairs be wire, well then, so like wiry hairs, like he's like, okay, well then he's saying my woman's, if you think of the hairs like kind of like wires, well my woman has like black wires growing on her head, but then that just makes it sound gross. So it's like yeah, he's saying like it's making her sound like a creepy, crazy looking person, like almost like a
Barbie, you cut all the hair off.
I'm thinking of like a horror movie character, yeah, something like that, like. But he's essentially saying like women's breath does not smell like perfume. They don't sing like music. It's like when my woman talks, she sounds like, that's what people sound like. She doesn't sound like a, music playing in the background. And that she doesn't glide above the ground. No, people walk, Francis. That's what they do. I don't even know who Francis is. I made that name up.
So he's not insulting his mistress.
No, what he's doing is saying people's stupid exaggerations are ridiculous.
He's being real.
Yeah.
Calling
her ugly.
I was like, oh.
He's like, she's a normal human, everyday person who does not have any of these crazy exaggerations, nor does anybody else, and that's how it should be. She's a beautiful woman in her own right, as all women should be, and they shouldn't feel pressured to stand up to this, I have to wear makeup all the time so I can look like I have red coral lips. I'll tell you, ladies, at one point, there is a point, and it's much like the turn in this sonnet, where you'll hit middle age, and it'll become apparent that you're wearing makeup. It will. This is why they say, men age gracefully, because there's no pressure for us to wear makeup. That's the only reason. Our wrinkles come with time, and our gray hair comes with time. When with women, for some reason, because there's this stigma of like, I gotta wear makeup, it all just comes at once. It's like one day somebody goes, you're old. That's what happens. It's like, because you've been covering it up for so long, and then all of a sudden it happens, and everybody goes, all right. And so that's why there's no graceful aging for women, because society has convinced you that you must look like the coral person and wear makeup to turn yourself into a white, I don't know, whatever. Well, not white now. I guess it's something else. It's different. It's changed ever since, it's no longer cool to be pale. Well, we got 2 left. We'll cover 138 and 147 the next time. We just don't have time to get to it now. So we'll do it with Dunn. Because we have less poems with Dunn. What I'll probably do is do less on Ben Jonson, because I don't like his stuff as much. So I'll probably just spend the whole next class on John Donne and these last 2 sonnets. That'll be more fun.
But you're gonna have the quiz this week, right?
Yes, let me tell you. I'll tell you, because we have a quiz over the sonnets. Even though we didn't have a discussion post, we do have a quiz.
I like his song.
The woman that he loves in 138, he loves and he shouldn't. She's very bad for him, but he can't help it. So that'll help you with the quiz. Oh, no. I'm thinking of 147. I'm so sorry. 147 is, I love a woman I probably shouldn't, and it's bad for me.
Which one?
147.
Okay.
I love a woman I probably shouldn't, and she's bad for me. 138 is, we both know that I'm old, but we don't say it. That's essentially what the whole sonnet is. I'm an old man. She knows I'm old. I know I'm old. She says, "You're not old." I say, "I know." We just basically don't mention the word old. And so now we, it's cool. And now the book tries to force this idea in where it says like, oh, well, she cheats on him. I don't think that's true. I think that it's just that they lie to each other about, is this what lovers do? Lovers don't tell each other the full truth all the time. Does this dress make me look fat? Of course it doesn't. Oh, I love that dress though. That's a way of getting around it if you have to. Yeah. But that's my favorite one. Wear that one. That the idea is that they both lie to each other about the truth.
What's the
But-
106 again?
What now?
106?
106? And we can go ahead and go. If y'all ready to go, y'all go ahead and head out of here. But 106.
Your conference is scheduled to end in 2 minutes.
All right, Francis.
Did you just name it?
Yeah, he did. It was the name he used earlier.
I probably used Francine for her because she's a female.
Francis
Francis
could be a
is a,
female name.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
female or male. Francis.
I'm changing it to Karen. Shut up, Karen.
I like Francis.
I like
But Francis is, I'm thinking of Francis as a male name. Okay, 106. And y'all can feel free to go whenever you're ready. 106
I don't
is...
have anything to do today.
106 is like the old writers wrote about how beautiful you are, but even they, who are better writers than I am, could not write about how beautiful you truly are. That's what 106 was.
Say it one more time.
You're welcome.
Oh yeah, I get to eat that thing.
The old writers.
The old writers, the writers from the past, were far more skilled than me. And they predicted you and how beautiful you would be. But even they could not have predicted how beautiful you are. Nor can I, or anybody alive, say how beautiful you are. Because you're just that beautiful.
Most people still talk like that.
I know. We did lose a lot. Which one?